Hello and welcome back to the Humanoid Leader series. I'm very thrilled today to be joined by Grace Brown, CEO of Andromeda. And today we're going to be discussing their humanoid Abby and her role in shaping and supporting elderly care. Grace, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Jack. Lovely to be here.
So could you please begin by giving an overview to Andromeda and a bit more about your role as CEO there?
Yeah, so Andromeda, we're a Series A startup. We're building Abby, who is a social humanoid robot that goes into the aged care space. She's designed to interact with people and alleviate loneliness. So she started as a COVID passion project of mine during the pandemic. My background's in robotics engineering, and I was in Melbourne at the time. In Melbourne, we had very, very restrictive lockdowns, and so I was building her as a product and a solution to address some of the disconnection I was feeling. My role as founder and CEO, I started as an engineer, so I built the very first prototype by myself in my room. But I transitioned from kind of engineer to founder, which was a little bit of an identity shift and a little bit of a crisis for me internally. But now I do everything from running board meetings, managing my exec team, fundraisers, hiring, all of the things that you would expect a founder CEO to take on. Yeah.
Awesome. So you kind of touched on it there about kind of the reason why you focus more on emotional intelligence, but obviously a lot of humanoid robotics companies seem to be having quite a focus on the physical capabilities, but kind of miss out on that emotional intelligence side.
Yeah.
Sort of, could you go into a bit more detail about the vision for Andromeda? As I know, obviously you mentioned it was during COVID, but a bit more about the vision and the reason for focusing more on the emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
and specifically within elder care.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we all know and believe that in the next decade, there's going to be billions of robots that are going to be in our physical world, coexisting with people, working alongside people in homes and schools and hospitals and all sorts of environments. And exactly what you said, everyone who's building in the space today are very, very focused on capability and utility. And while there's a massive, massive market for robots with high utility, what people are under indexing on is the fact that every single robot that will one day need to interact with a human will need a layer of social awareness. They'll need to understand how to interact with a person. They'll need to be able to read the emotional patterns and rhythms of the individual. They'll need to be able to dissect all of the subtle nuances that are involved in an interaction. And no one's really building in that space today. I think the industry has heavily under indexed on HRI, like human robot interaction. And so for me, that was something that I knew whatever I built, I really, really wanted to own the infrastructure, or at least start developing the infrastructure that all the billions of robots that need to interact with people will one day need to have. So that's where we want to go in, I'd say, within the next decade. Going back to where we are today, so Abby, she's designed today to go into aged care homes, as I'd mentioned. And the key differentiator that's aligned with our vision is the fact that she's built with a lot of personality and character. So she's not a robot that's going to fold your laundry or do your dishes or move a box from one room to another. But she's designed to build like a real relationship with people. So everything that we're focusing on is around her memories, her personalization. She interacts with people in up to 90 different languages. And in our industry, like in the aged care industry, that is unbelievably valuable because you've got residents who 80% of residents in aged care have cognitive decline, which means that most of them are also reverting back to their native language, even if they once spoke English. But then on the staffing side, about 70% of the staff speak English as a second language. So communication is a massive barrier. And while Abby's not designed to really close that gap as a translator, she's really designed like just being able to ask someone how their day is going in their native language dramatically increases their quality of life. So most people who interact with Abby today would describe her as like seeing a grandchild walk through the front door. So yeah.
That is a lovely way to describe Abby. So that's really interesting to learn a bit more about the vision. At Humanoid Robotics Technology, we love all things technology as well. So be interested to learn a bit more about kind of, and you mentioned your background lying within engineering. Interested to learn a bit more about some of the mechanical challenges involved in building a companion robot like Abby.
Um, I'd say similar to like the whole industry. Building a robotic system and platform and deploying it into the physical world is a unbelievably complex challenge, particularly when it comes to like quality, reliability, autonomy, all of the things that are a lot less glamorous in when you think about building humanoid robots. I think people always get fixated on the demos and the fact that a humanoid robot is very human-like, like it's anthropomorphic, it's got arms and legs, and it speaks to you in natural language. People then their expectations are that it can perform exactly like a human, and so when it falls short of that, people's expect that's where people's expectations are. So when it falls short of that, people are a bit disappointed. So I think some of the key challenges is really around a lot of it is just around like quality and reliability. Like we have a few dozen deployments out in the field at the moment. And I think, you know, with every few deployments, it really emphasizes how important it is to address like, you know, the technical debt early on. Like people are building up these invisible technical debts when they push products out as fast as possible. But ultimately that hurts your business in the long run. So for us, a lot of it is about going back to making sure that we do all of the 101s, the less glamorous things in robotics really, really well.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So going back to the social side, because obviously Abby primarily being a social robot,
Mm.
what are some of the technical complexities then that go into this kind of social side of building a companion robot like Abby? For example, something that make it impossible to replicate, via LLMs, or and 3D printers.
Mm. Um, I think the thing that makes social humanoid robots really complex is also the thing that makes them really appealing is you know, there's just so much nuance in an interaction. There's people assume I think a lot of people today assume humanoid robots and Abby is just really like an LLM wrapper or like, you know, like ChatGPT with a face on it. And that's really, really, if you sat in any of our meetings, like team meetings, you would really understand the cognitive architecture that's under her software stack is unbelievably well thought out. So, I mean, with any sort of intelligent system, like artificial or biological, there's really four cognitive states that the brain goes into. There's like perceiving, so your perception, like your inputs, what you're noticing from your cameras and your sensors. There's storing, like your memories, and memories is a whole other thing as well. It's not just storing, but it's also how you actually. Well, we can talk about memories in a second. There's reflecting and planning, and then there's also acting in your executions. And so we've got like an architecture, and we've got different agents and AI systems for every single one of these different layers, operating at any single point in time. So when someone interacts with Abby, you know, she's not just there, you know, turn taking, responding to the immediate input of what the other person said, but she's reading your micro expressions. She's noticing your gaze direction. She's drawing on the memories from your previous conversations. She's understanding, you know, the relational context of every single individual you've ever mentioned to her. And she's building up this model of who you are as an individual while also fusing that with what is happening in the moment. And then providing a response, a contextually appropriate response within a reasonable sub-second latency. That's like, if you combine all of that together, that is an unbelievably nuanced and complex challenge. But that's what we do as people all the time. I don't think we're fully like cognizant of all of the inputs that we're taking in at all points in time. So that's one of the things that makes it like, you know, it's not just the technical challenge. Like I think traditionally robotics has always been quite binary. It's but like, did the robot pick up the box and move it to the other location or not? Like it's one or zero. Whereas with social robots, it's everything is so subjective, and every single individual is unbelievably different. Their preferences are different. We learned early on that there wasn't going to be a one size fits all approach. That's why we had to make Abby very personalized to each individual. So um, yeah, it's an incredibly complex challenge, and it gets you to think really deeply about, you know, what makes a really good, meaningful human connection. And a lot of the questions are coming around building Abby and creating good interactions is fundamentally asking questions about like what it means to be human and what it means to connect with people.
Exactly. And, ultimately, if that's where they're going to be deployed amongst people, then it's, something that needs to be, perfect, which sounds like you're definitely working on. Awesome. So, because Abby is around people and interacting with people on a regular basis, it's something that's discussed, throughout humanoid robotics is safety. Um, and obviously, this is very important. You're obviously getting it right because Abby's already around those in elderly care. Um, what are some of the processes that you take at Andromeda to ensure that Abby is meeting a certain safety standard? Um, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say different countries have slightly different regulations, while some of them are actually quite similar. For us, like I think the biggest one is right, like what is your robot going to do when it's powered down? And that was like a core driver for why, like, if you look at Abby today, from her waist down, she's actually static. So she's not bipedal, she's not doing any sort of sophisticated locomotion. She's wheel based, so she can do waypoint navigation like she can navigate from room to room. But if she were to if you were to cut out her power, she wouldn't actually topple over or fall over anyone. And her stature is also quite small, which was intentional as well, not just from like a safety perspective, but also from like a trust perspective as well. Like it was very intentional for us to design Abby as a humanoid robot that people felt really comfortable around and something that was non-threatening. Because that was something that I noticed was really, really missing in the industry was everyone was building these 10 feet tall, faceless, militant, Terminator esque humanoid robots. And while a lot of their applications were for the industrial environments, people were still building it with this kind of aesthetic for general purpose home humanoid robots. And so for me, I wanted Abby to be childlike in nature. So she's about 4 feet tall. She's very colorful. She's got nice, beautiful, oversized purple eyes to make her more endearing. And so most people, when they meet Abby, they're not threatened by her. They really like, they just want to go up and give her a hug. So that was really intentional from the design perspective for trust, but then also for safety. Like, she weighs about no more than 15, 20 kilos. I don't know what that is in pounds. I think that's 30 pounds roughly. um, and so, yeah, so I think, but we've got a head of robot safety in the team who's doing all of our privacy, security, safety requirements. So, yeah, it's definitely something we take very, very seriously at Andromeda.
Perfect. Thank you. So, yeah, as you mentioned earlier, a few dozen deployments already. Um, would be interested to learn a bit more about some recent ones, such as at the Simon Prince Center. Yeah, be interested to learn a bit more about that deployment and some others if you can shed some light on
Yeah, so I'd say one of our key partners is a provider back in Australia, and they're going to be one of the first customers. I don't know if this is going to be like the first aged care provider in the world that will have adopted a humanoid robot in all of their homes, but in the next 2 weeks, one of our customers will have an Abby in every single one of their homes. So that's really, really exciting for not just for us, but for them and for I don't know, just you can they can really, really start seeing the value that she's providing this industry. I think, a lot of people have said to me in the past, like, don't you feel terrible? Like you're building a humanoid robot to replace human care and, you should feel ashamed. But the thing is, what all of our customers have recognized is that the industry is under so much distress and they know that they've said it themselves. It's not going to be people who solve this problem. It's going to be technology. And so a lot of our customers who adopted Abby, particularly as a really early prototype, they've said to us that they see that as an investment in the future because they recognize that it's something in the industry needed to change. And so, yeah, so it's just unbelievably exciting that we have our first customer who's going to have an Abby in every single one of their homes. And not only that, like all of our customers have the same conversations. It's not so much like, a consideration of whether they want one or not. The question is always, how soon can we get one? How soon can we get our next one? How soon can we have more? So it's a high quality problem from a business perspective. We just need to keep up with demand.
that. Nice. Um, cool. So, obviously, you mentioned there the future. Bit more. Wanted to touch on a bit more about your thoughts on and hopes for the future within humanoid robots, and kind of about the importance of the builders behind them as well.
Yeah, I'd say I think the future where humanoid robots are going to be in the home and part of everyday life, I believe that future is completely inevitable. Like, so many people are building in this space, so many people are building towards this future. It's been the dream of engineers and scientists and storytellers for decades, the home companion robot. So that future is really like what everyone says is around the corner, depends how you define around the corner. But what that future looks like is going to be so different based on who's building that future. And that's exactly why I started Andromeda, because I was looking, I was walking around different robotics conferences, and I was looking around while it was so exciting to see, all of these bipedal robots with so much capability and had come so far in just a decade. Um, no one was focusing on building a humanoid robot that I thought people would actually want to have a relationship with. Like, no one was focusing on, the emotional intelligence of these robots. No one was focusing on character, on personality, and no one was focusing on like a design philosophy that I thought people would actually want to have in their homes. And so for me, a huge reason I started Andromeda was because when I was looking towards the future, because these conferences are really just a snippet of what's to come, I was like, this isn't the future that I want to live. I want to live in a future where the humanoid robots that are alongside us, can tell jokes, can not take themselves too seriously, can have manners, can apologize for the mistakes that they make, can understand me as an individual, and can be personalized and adapted to each individual and their own needs. So yeah, so I'd say for me, that's the future that I'd like to see, is one where humanoid robots aren't so dystopian, and the fear that people have or apprehension of humanoid robots necessarily taking over their roles, but being integrated into life in such a way that enriches human experiences. Like that's what I'd like to see.
Well, it sounds like the work that you and the team have been doing at Andromeda, you're definitely you're making that dream a reality. Well, Grace, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, could you just please let our audience know where they can learn more about Abby and Andromeda?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're an assisted living home in the United States or wherever, you can go onto our website. You can book a demo with Abby. You can follow us on LinkedIn or Instagram. Um, I think we're pretty searchable. If you just look up Andromeda Grace Brown, you'll find stuff.
Grace, thank you very much once again.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack.